Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel, and today I'm going to be reviewing the new Elvis Presley movie, Elvis. Before we get started, just a quick warning here. Needless to say, this review does contain spoilers, so if you have not seen the movie yet and don't want to be spoiled, then I'd advise to watch at your own risk. First off, just a brief synopsis here of the film. From his rise to fame to his unprecedented superstardom, rock and roll icon Elvis Presley, played by Austin Butler, maintains a complicated relationship with his enigmatic manager, Colonel Tom Parker, played by Tom Hanks, over the course of 20 years. Central to Presley's journey and happiness is one of the most influential people in his life, Priscilla, played by Olivia DeJonge. And this film is directed by Baz Luhrmann, and it's told through the perspective of Colonel Tom Parker as it examines the focal events in Elvis's life, from his rise to fame to his military service and the death of his mother, to his Hollywood career, his return to music, and eventually his downfall due to exhaustion and addictive substances. Perhaps the most important question to be asked here about this film is, how was Elvis portrayed? Elvis, like I said, played by Austin Butler, is portrayed, in my opinion, in a sympathetic light as an aspiring, talented musician heavily influenced by rhythm and blues who gets swindled by manager Colonel Tom Parker after his talents are discovered. And despite being manipulated throughout the movie by Tom Parker, Elvis does show moments of being an independent thinker, such as when he refuses to stop his stage antics at the demands of Tom Parker because at the time his stage antics were deemed too vulgar, as well as refusing to sing Christmas music as part of his comeback special. So throughout the film, despite being manipulated, Elvis does show moments of being an independent thinker. And, over time he becomes larger than life, but grows too big for his fame, and eventually succumbs to his addictions to drugs and alcohol. And around the same time, his marriage falls apart, but he does remain close to his wife and daughter up until his death. On the same note as that last question, how was Colonel Tom Parker portrayed in this film? And, for years, Tom Parker has been accused of having a key role in the demise of Elvis Presley, and what this film really focuses on is exposing Parker's manipulative ways and really portrayed him as a self-absorbed, money-obsessed carny who manipulates Elvis every chance he gets for his own personal benefit. And, eventually in the film, Elvis does fire Parker, but eventually takes him back while being on the brink of debt. So Elvis really is under the thumb of Colonel Tom Parker for a majority of this film here. Tom Hanks, I think, does a great job of playing Colonel Tom Parker and making him as unlikable as possible, which adds a really interesting ripple here to the story, which, Tom Parker is really an adversary to Elvis, even though for most of the movie Elvis doesn't realize it because he's so blinded by fame, but towards the end of the movie becomes accustomed to Tom Parker's manipulative ways. So that's a really interesting ripple to the story, I think, and like I said, Tom Hanks does a great job of portraying Tom Parker. As for what I liked in this movie, I love the imagery throughout, especially in the beginning when Tom Parker is pursuing Elvis. I think the great imagery in this movie definitely does add an interesting ripple here to the story, and, it's a non-fiction story, so there's not much that you can really improvise on, so I thought the imagery did a great job of adding a different perspective to this story that allowed the audience to view it in a different light. So I thought that was really cool, and, being somebody who's a big fan of storytelling in movies, I really did love the imagery throughout, and also the casting, I think, was fantastic as well. I think Austin Butler plays a great Elvis, and Tom Hanks does a great job, like I said before, as Colonel Tom Parker. Austin Butler, I think, does a great job of emulating Elvis's stage antics and presence as well, so that was really cool, I think, and all in all, those are a few of the aspects of this film that I really enjoyed. Great casting, like I said, and also the imagery was fantastic. And as for what I disliked, I thought there was too much focus on Colonel Tom Parker, and I think the film definitely did gloss over some key years in Elvis's life that didn't have much to do with Tom Parker that I wish the film would have elaborated a bit more on, but I feel that having Tom Parker as a semi-narrator for this film definitely did give too much focus on someone who isn't the main character, or at least isn't supposed to be the main character in this film, and, the entire plot does appear to be from the perspective of Tom Parker, looking back on his relationship with Elvis right before he dies. So, since this is the case, I think it would have been more appropriate for this film to have been called Elvis and the Colonel, or something like that, because it was very much focused on Tom Parker and his relationship with Elvis rather than just Elvis's life. And just one other small thing here, I do wish that they would have at least mentioned or shown Elvis's appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1957, in which Ed Sullivan does give Elvis an endorsement, which came at a time when the public was starting to turn against Elvis and his onstage antics. So, considering that the movie spent so much time focusing on the negative public perception of Elvis early on and his onstage movements, I think it would have been an interesting way of showing a counter-argument here in support of Elvis at the time, had they shown, or like I said, even mentioned his appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1957, where he got a glowing endorsement from Ed Sullivan. All in all, I'm going to give this film 3.5 out of 5 stars. My one main complaint was the fact that there was so much emphasis on Colonel Tom Parker and not enough emphasis on Elvis's life outside of his relationship with Tom Parker, so That would be my one complaint, and the Ed Sullivan thing that I said was just a minor gripe, not significant, but what I did enjoy was the great imagery, the casting was fantastic, and they really did tell a great story, so from those aspects, I really did enjoy this film, so I would definitely recommend it, even if you're not an Elvis fan or a big Elvis fan. It's still an enjoyable film, and if you are a hardcore Elvis fan, I'm not sure you're going to learn any new information from this movie, but it's still a fine watch anyway, and I think 3.5 out of 5 stars is fair. Not remarkable, but not bad either. Kind of right down the middle for me, and like I said, it was an enjoyable watch. Some people may have had a problem with it being nearly 3 hours long, but I didn't really have a problem with that. As a matter of fact, I wish they would have released more information about Elvis's life in this movie, so I definitely did not have a problem with the time, and all in all, I think it was a fine watch. 3.5 out of 5 stars for me. So that wraps up my review of the new Elvis film titled Elvis. If you enjoyed my review, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel down below, turn on the bell for notifications to be notified of a new upload, and let me know down in the comments below. If you have already seen the movie, what did you think of the new Elvis film? Let me know all that good stuff down in the comments. I'd be very interested in hearing what you guys have to say. And until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.